They say, every artist leaves a mark. Mine just happened to trigger a city-wide security alert. The wall was a slab of government arrogance, cold, perfect, and stupidly clean, the kind of surface that begged for a heartbeat. I gave it one. My roller swept a curve of cobalt across the concrete, and the paint shivered in the night wind like an exposed vein. Drones purred somewhere above the floodlights, little metal gnats that thought they owned the sky. I smiled at them through my respirator mask and finished the outline of the last letter, F. Freedom has a frequency. You just have to tune in. My wristband, homebrew, illegal, stitched together from a dead bracelet and a prayer, vibrated twice. The script I'd spliced into the tracker mesh went live. In a 2-block radius, government bracelets seized, rebooted, forgot who belonged to whom. If code could laugh, mine was howling. A siren coughed, choked, then steadied into a thin mechanical scream. Around the plaza, street lamps flickered like startled eyelids. On the far side of the square, a patrol car braked too hard, tires yawning on wet asphalt. Unauthorized Omega-class signal detected, crooned the public channel from a speaker mounted under the ministry seal. Remain where you are. Officers are en route. Sure, I muttered to the wall, clicking my can. I'll just leave my confession on the building. Sweat tickled down my spine under the paint-spattered hoodie. My fingers hummed. It wasn't fear, it was the same buzz I got when a piece finally bit back. The mural stretched 4 stories high, a tangle of birds cut from barcodes and a hand flinging off a metal cuff. I threw white glints along the wing edges and a slash of sun along the knuckles. If they were going to arrest me, I wanted the photo to slap. The drones shifted pitch. Closer. I capped the can, slid it into my bag, and reached for the tether I'd stashed behind a decorative grate. The metal was slick. City rain had the taste of pennies and secrets. Turn around, Niko. The voice was mild, like someone asking for the time. It still walked a finger down my spine. I didn't turn. I looked at the mural instead, at the hand that wasn't mine but somehow was, muscles clenched mid-flight. In the reflection of my mask, the letters wavered. I inhaled through the filter and tasted citrus and ozone. Ozone wasn't paint. Your cameras are lying to you, I said, and even I liked the smoothness in my voice. I'm just a janitor cleaning up your branding. Metal tensed behind me, boot on pipe, the micro whine of a bracelet scanner spooling. He'd climbed, not taken the stairs. Points for effort. Niko. The voice said again, closer now. Please turn around. I turned. He was taller than he sounded. Dark uniform, matte where it should be, gleam where it had to be. The strays unit wore black that ate light, with shoulder rigs for tranquilizers and the slim, sterile line of a tether gun. His hair was cropped close, the kind that looked boring until you noticed the precise mistakes. His face was efficient, sharp in the ways that made you think of rules and knives. The scanner cuff at his wrist threw a dull glow across his palm. You're Dane, I said, because it felt like a dare. The one with the perfect record. He didn't smile. Captain Dane, yes. Captain Dane, I repeated, tilting my head. Statistically incapable of missing. Statistically uninterested in small talk on a ledge, he said. Step away from the edge, Niko. Wind pushed at my hoodie as if it, at least, thought I should jump. Floodlights painted him in bone and shadow. Behind his shoulder, the ministry seal tried to loom. It looked like a bored coin. You rehearsed that? I asked. Because it sounds compassionate, and your PR team will be thrilled. Niko. He didn't raise his voice. You're under arrest for sabotage of city equipment, tampering with biometric devices and vandalism, I said, cheering softly. Don't forget my art? Something behind his eyes flickered. Not humor. Something that might have been, focus narrowing with interest. Step away from the edge, he repeated. Ask nicely. He exhaled. Please. I took one theatrical step away. Look at that. We can do polite. The drone swept lower, casting a net of light that made the paint pop 3 shades brighter. My chest pressed against my ribs like a drum. He moved a fraction closer, and the air changed. Not metaphor. The actual air. Crisp, charged, like the first seconds of a thunderstorm when the hairs on your arms salute. His nostrils flared. The scanner at his wrist pulsed a tight, anxious beat. Don't, I told my body. Don't you dare. He lifted his hand. Wrists. I palmed a can from my bag and threw it. It wasn't elegant. It just had to be surprising. The can thunked off his shoulder, burst into a halo of indigo, and the uniform sprouted night bruises. He didn't flinch. He just turned his head in the paint mist, blinked once, and reached the tether. Gun snapped up with a kind of lazy speed that meant hours on a range. I was already moving. Knee, pivot, sprint. The ledge shivered under my sneakers. I planted, vaulted to the maintenance ladder, and let gravity yank me into a slide. Metal screamed under my palms. Niko. Not a shout. A warning you could put a seatbelt on. I took the turn around the cooling unit too fast, and almost kissed the grate. The plaza flipped under me. Lights, cops, a scatter of people lifting phones like offerings. I heard the hiss-talk of a tether line spitting past, felt it snap against the rung by my foot. Cute. He wasn't aiming to maim. Unauthorized Omega-class signal detected. Chirped the city again. Late to my party. I laughed. It came out giddy. He followed. I could hear him. The absence of clatter. Professionals don't sound like anything. Once or twice I risked a glance. Dark blur, the line of his jaw, the way he took corners like he'd sketched them first. Precision, but not joy. That bothered me more than it should have. Chasing me should be fun. I cut toward the service catwalk I'd tested earlier. The chain link raked my knuckles, paint smeared silver. My mask fogged, breath hot. When I jumped the gap onto the opposite roof, my landing was sloppy. Left ankle complained, hood slipped. He hit after me like a period at the end of a sentence, clean and final. Stop, he said, and there was something in it that wasn't order. It sounded like he'd run out of the right words and was borrowing the wrong one. I paused. That was my mistake. He came in close, not grabbing, just there, and the city's smell. Oil, wet, concrete. The lemon cleaner they use on the ministry floors, dropped away. I got him instead, a graphite cool winter skin. The breath of something that had watched itself for years and finally forgot for a second. I should have moved. Every part of me thought about it, and then didn't. We did it at the same time, tiny stupid animals trapped in elegant bodies. Leaned forward a centimeter and breathed. The world snapped. My custom band shrieked a frequency only dogs and criminals appreciate. His scanner fired up like a defibrillator. Somewhere down on the street, 3 bracelets within range stuttered and rebooted, their owners grabbing their wrists in alarm. A drone dipped, corrected, panicked and zipped to a safer altitude. I staggered back, dizzy. He did too, a fraction. Our shoulders brushed, a bright little spark jumped from his sleeve to my skin, and my lungs decided oxygen was a suggestion. The smell, his, slid under my mask like a hand and tugged. My palms went stupidly hot. My ankles considered kneeling without asking me first. Absolutely not. Congratulations, I said too quickly, and wow, yes, my voice was not fine. Now the city thinks we're dating. His jaw ticked. The scanner cuff flashed red, then gold, then settled into a heat-sick green. He looked at the display, then at me, and the professional blankness developed a fissure. Move, he said, low. Now. Oh, now you want to run with me? He reached, hand open, like I was a skittish dog, which should have annoyed me more than it did. And I did what I do best. I smiled, stepped in like I might comply, and pushed off his chest. Not hard. Just enough to make him readjust his balance. He was ready for a tackle, not a suggestion. He didn't fall, of course he didn't. But I had my angle. I slid under the tension cable, scraped my elbows to a good shine, and dropped to the fire stairs. His tether gun sang again, line hissing past, catching on the railing above. I hopped 3 rungs at a time, leaped the last 8, and hit the alley in a crouch. Down here, the city smelled like wet cardboard and forgotten noodles. Neon bled from a noodle shop sign and turned the puddles dragon pink. Footsteps above. He was pacing me along the roofline. I cut left, then cut right when the alley dead-ended into a tower of crates. A cat screamed that I was a disappointment. Fair. My wristband buzzed, 2 pulses, then a third like a swallowed heartbeat. I checked the tiny cracked screen without stopping. The mesh hadn't just noticed us, it was trying to handshake. Pair query? Blinked in pixel font. Y. N. Oh, you're cute, I told it, and jammed my thumb on N. The display glitched and replaced both options with LOL. Somewhere overhead, his voice spoke into a mic. Control, this is Captain Dane. Experiencing interference on unit channel. Advise. Static answered. Not normal static. The savory kind, thick and velvet, like a storm swallowed a radio and coughed. Control? He tried again. The line dissolved into wet fizz. The hairs on my neck rose, every cell paying attention. That wasn't my code. That was us. My window out was a shuttered florist's shop with an old metal grate. I shimmed the lock last week. No one cared enough to fix it. I shoved through, vaulted the long dead counter, and hit the back door. It spat me onto a side street where the city forgot to aim cameras and the rain remembered my name. For one breath, we were the only two people in the entire grid. I looked up. He stood at the roof's edge like a punctuation mark, drops breaking themselves on his shoulders, paint bruises drying dark. The scanner at his wrist pulsed. He looked down at the readout, at me, then said nothing at all. I lifted two paint-sticky fingers in a salute that could have meant anything and ran. The city opened its ribs for me. My feet knew the route before my brain did. As I slid into the dark, I heard his earpiece give one last broken gasp and then clearly like a verdict he didn't want to read aloud. The cuff announced itself with a soft electronic chime. Pair sync detected. If Karma had a sense of humor, it would smell exactly like his cologne. The warehouse breathes like a broken accordion. In with the river cold air, out with the ghost of old machinery. My hideout sits on the top floor under a collapsed skylight, a nest of tarps, cords and canvases. The night has crawled inside and made itself a roommate. I slam the metal door, throw 3 locks, and stand there until my pulse remembers how to be a metronome and not a fire alarm. The scent hits first. Citrus cut with graphite. A cold, disciplined note. Threading through the warmer chaos of paint thinner and damp concrete. My pheromone mask should drown it. It doesn't. The diffuser on my jawline coughs a tired little puff and dies like a cheap incense stick. Perfect, I tell the diffuser, peeling it off. My skin underneath is flushed, my palms are stupid. Fantastic. Spectacular. I yank my hoodie off, toss it onto a chair that's more splinter than seat, and crack a window to let the warehouse gulp more air. Ozone muscles in, sharp as a dare. The city storms in after it, smelling like wet copper and fried noodles. Somewhere below, a bar's patio laughs. The way people laugh when they're sure no one is listening. I circle the space once, twice, a tiger in an art gallery. On the far wall my latest unposted canvas glares back, an open palm shedding a bracelet like a snake sheds skin. I meant to paint hope. Tonight it looks like denial. I switch the smart bulb through a parade of colors until the room lands on a low amber that flatters nobody. My fingers itch for keys. When I can't outrun it, I write. I drag my chair to the battered work table, flip open my old laptop with the cracked trackpad, and log into Free Frequency, the blog nobody owns and everybody blames on the wrong person. Anonymous, yes. Safe, no. But it's mine, and I wanted to witness this feeling before it eats me. Post title, Crash, pair query, not funny, body. Made the ministry flinch tonight. Sorry not sorry for the grid hiccup. Surveillance should learn to beg. Paint still drying on a wall that pretends it can't feel. Unexpected variable, one officer smells like storm on steel. Not a metaphor. The masks glitched. So did I. PSA to Omegas. If your bracelet's rebooted near District 9, check your firmware. If a prompt asks pair Y, laugh at it before you press N. Hypothetical. What if freedom has a frequency, because we're radios, not cages? Hypothesis. I'm fine. I am not fine. Art note. Cobalt pops under rain. I hover over publish. Then I add a line. Also, whoever invented cologne that smells like patience, fight me. Post. The page eats it. Spits out the timestamp like a dare. Comments will show up in minutes. The loyal, the bored, the bots, the bait. I'll moderate later with a machete. The adrenaline is going brittle. Beneath it the ache arrives, both ankles, left shoulder, and something tender I don't name. I wet a towel in the sink, swipe paint from my neck, and end up painting a bruise a deeper shade of bruise. Cute. By the time I crawl onto the mattress under the skylight, the cold has moved into my bones with a suitcase and a list of complaints. I tuck my arm under my head and stare up at the shattered glass teeth. Against the black, at the slice of sky that doesn't care about laws. The scent is still there, thinner now, like a memory rehearsing itself. You're a professional hazard. I tell a man who isn't in the room. Go be competent somewhere else. I don't mean to sleep. I do anyway. The subway's a throat swallowing a city. It's all heat and damp breath and advertisements no one sees. A pressure cooker lined with scuffed silver. I'm standing in a crowded car with one gloved hand on the pole, my other hand stuffed in. The pocket of a hoodie I didn't borrow so much as rescue from a laundromat mistake bin. The cuff is frayed. A thread tickles my wrist. Stations flash. Bodies sway in a choreography designed by physics and exhaustion. Somewhere, a child hums. The car smells like detergent and rain, and 100 human stories boiled down to skin. The doors slide, and he steps in. Not the uniform. Not the gear. Not the barcode black. He's in a worn coat and a black t-shirt, a kind of anonymity that broadcasts the opposite. He holds the strap with an economy of motion, nothing extra, and I hate that my eye draws. A line from his wrist to his throat to his mouth, a geometry I didn't mean to sketch. Someone bumps me from behind. My balance tips into his side. My shoulder brushes his chest. The hoodie I'm wearing, some stranger's, rubs against wool that costs more than my rent. The smell opens like a cut citrus, that precise cool, that winter discipline. My brain, a traitor, climbs into that breath and sits there. Sorry, I say, automatic. My voice is lighter, younger, the kind you forgive. He glances down. His mouth is a straight line that could be a reprimand. His eyes are not unfriendly, calm in a way that refuses to be read. Night train eyes. The kind that don't look at you so much as through what you're pretending to be. It's fine, he says. The doors close. The car lurches. I should move away. I don't. Our hands are on the same pole now, not touching, close enough to make a story out of the space between. The conductor's voice blurs into the hum. Light streaks through the windows, package, person, poster, reflection. In the glass, I catch us double exposed, my hood shadowing half my face, his mouth set, our shoulders making an accidental symmetry I want to ruin. A gust of scent, his, slides over the cheap detergent ghosting my hoodie. The old iron of the tracks sings a warning. Something in me leans. My throat tightens, blooming heat, an ache that's not the good kind. I close my eyes. When I open them, the car is empty, and full at once. Everyone is gone and replaced by possibilities. The lights don't flicker so much as breathe. He's closer without moving. He says something I can't hear and I understand it anyway. The doors open on a station that doesn't exist. The sign reads, Synchronicity. I wake gasping, the taste of stainless steel on my tongue and paint on my teeth. The warehouse returns with a thud, a cough of wind, a judder in the pipes. My diffuser blinks a single dying eye and gives up. The scent is stronger now, which is illegal on at least 3 levels of my sanity. My skin hums like a tuning fork someone forgot to set down. Absolutely not, I tell the ceiling. We're not doing this. I roll over, fumble for the laptop, and find the screen still glowing faintly with comments. Anon 30,249. District 9 bracelets went wild. Yours? Beta Bird, pair query popped up. Said no. It laughed? Rooftop ghost, Niko, you okay? Moderation.bot. Stop flirting with your readers. I should type reassurance. Instead I drag the toolbox from under the table, pop open the false bottom, and pull out my favorite mistake. A bracelet. Core I gutted from a discarded unit, and rebuilt into something that tells me truths the city prefers to whisper. It's a little Frankenstein, wires like veins, tiny cracked OLED, a casing scavenged from a vintage watch. I strap it onto my wrist. The metal is cool, then warm, then mine. I thumb the button sequence to wake the mesh ping. The screen fuzzes to gray. A heartbeat icon blinks once. Twice. It stutters. A progress bar crawls like a hungover caterpillar. Then, reluctantly, the interface resolves. Scanning local mesh. Detecting interference. Source, UNC. Signature, The last character flickers and refuses to settle. Pair protocol, active. Compatibility, 98.7%. Status, active bond interference. A laugh snags in my throat and comes out sideways. You're kidding. 98.7% isn't a crush. It's a thesis. I pace, because the floor is the only thing not judging me. Sweat cools on my spine. I sip water I don't want. The scent insists. I should encrypt everything, move caches, ghost my roots. I should call Cade and tell him to prep the dead drops and not to be a moron about it. I should tear the bracelet off and bury it in salt and superstition. Instead, I walk to the window and press my palm to the cold frame. The city is a field of sleeping animals, huge and dangerous and pretending domestication. Somewhere out there, on a roof, or in a quiet office, or on a bus with its lights too bright, he's looking down at a cuff that's telling him the same lie the system tells all of us, that numbers are destiny. Compatibility, I say to the night. And the word tastes like lemon and laughter. Cute. I sit, open free frequency again, and type a new line into the already posted entry. Update. 98.7% is not consent. Neither is a glitch. If anyone tells you otherwise, paint over them. I hit save. The laptop whirs its tiny tired fan. My bracelet pulses once against my skin, soft as a question. I don't answer. I knew I was in trouble the second he said my real name, and pronounced it right. Dominic. The way he shaped it, flat on the first syllable, soft on the second, the nick clipped. Like a secret, told me two things: he'd done his homework, and I'd made his list. Not the public one with stats and press releases. The quiet one he keeps behind his eyes. It happens in the dead end of a service alley where the city forgets to breathe. The bricks lean in, weeds have opinions. I came for a stash, a paint cache tucked inside a ventilation housing, and found a small Mercy, the lid still taped, untouched. I didn't find the second Mercy, solitude. Don't call me that, I said without turning, because if I looked at him, I might make a mistake like tell the truth. Niko, then. Footsteps like careful punctuation. It's still yours. You practicing empathy now, Captain? Congrats on the character development. He stopped just out of arm's reach. I'll take that as a yes to conversation. I checked the angle of the alley mouth. No clean run. Above us, a spaghetti of fire escapes. Below, the old storm tunnels I'd mapped in chalk and stubbornness. I could still disappear. Probably. Maybe. I didn't peg you for a geometry fan, I said, tugging at the tape with paint-stained nails. You track my brand by the color? Because my cobalt is objectively superior. By the geometry, he said. You don't paint corners, you resolve them. Left-hand turns are a degree looser on Sundays. Your lines bend toward transit lines like you're listening for trains in the concrete. The last 4 murals map a curve. Center lands here. He pointed at the ground between us. You collect from this vent. You refill on Thursdays. And you pretend you don't care who notices the pattern. I let the lid sit in my hand a second longer than cool. You could have just said, I noticed you, and saved the math. I noticed you, he said steady, as if that sentence belonged to him. Wrists. Wow, I said. Romance is alive. He didn't move closer, he waited. That's what he does. Gives you the empty space and lets you fill it with your own mistake. I slid the cash into my bag and swung it over my shoulder, slower than necessary, so he'd see I'd decided not to bolt. Not because I was scared, because I like picking when I lose. You could at least make this entertaining, I said. Chase me a little. Pull something. Run, he said, dry. I'll catch you. You could at least pretend to doubt. I don't. Rude. The silence between us thickened, not entirely unfriendly. The grid hum in my bones nudged up a notch, the way it does when an elevator stops on your floor. I swallowed the memory of the rooftop, spark, breath, the system waking like a dragon. He lifted his hand an inch, palm open. Invitation. Not order. Wrists, Niko? You might at least buy me dinner first. I'll put it in the report, he said. I sighed and showed him my wrists. He didn't cuff me. He scanned. The cuff lit pale, reading, and flared gold. Compatible. Pair interference active. His jaw tightened by a millimeter. We need to move. Now. See, if this is your way of asking me out. His gaze flicked to the alley mouth. A patrol murmured by at the far end, 2 uniforms and a bored drone. He didn't reach for me. He looked at me. Tunnel. He meant the storm conduit 3 buildings down. The one with the rusted grate and the sticker that says this is a pipe dream. I peeled off toward it without a deal. Trust is a weird animal. Sometimes it recognizes its own species before you do. He followed at my shoulder. We didn't run, we moved. I popped the grate with the screwdriver I keep in my sleeve hem. Slipped down the ladder, into a cooler dark, and listened for the echo of his boots as he descended after me. The tunnel smelled like old rain and new electricity. At my back, the city's voice softened to a rumor. Left at the triangle, I said. You mark your paths. I mark what's mine. That doesn't make it yours. That's literally what marking means. He almost smiled. Almost. Keep moving. We walked. Water whispered. Somewhere above, traffic made the ceiling a drum. He stayed a half step behind and 3 inches to the left, The kind of body math you learn in rooms where people lie for a living. My band buzzed once, then thought better of it, as if even my tech had learned discretion. At the ladder up, I paused. You do know this spits us into a maintenance corridor behind an old cinema that smells like popcorn trauma. I do. He scanned the hatch. Clear. Good for you. The hatch went up with a grunt. The corridor did in fact smell like popcorn trauma. We emerged into a hallway of peeling posters and humming vents. He led, and I let him, because even wolves let someone else take the first trap. We exited into the alley behind the cinema and hit a service street that fed into a quieter grid. No patrols. No drones. No audience. Which is how I found myself thinking stupid things like, maybe this could be not easy, never that, but not war. Then the building with the frosted glass doors arrived like a bad ending. Ministry Annex, Block 14. He swiped us in with his cuff. The doors sighed. I hate your house, I said. Duly noted. Inside the interrogation room was a tasteful coffin, gray walls, table with rounded corners for safety, 2 chairs, no clock. The camera in the corner blinked a friendly red. He put a palm against the lens for 3 seconds. It buzzed and died. That's not protocol, I said, sitting. Captain? Neither are you, he said, sitting opposite. He rested the cuff on the table, turned the screen so I could see the numbers I didn't want to stare at. Compatibility, 98.7%. Status, active interference. It looked worse under fluorescent honesty. So, I tipped back in the chair until it complained. What now? Quarantine, sedatives, matching outfits? He watched me for a beat so long it had chapters. There is a protocol for high compatibility interference, he said finally. You won't like it. Try me. Mandatory quarantine, chemical dampeners, evaluation panel. They'll assign cause, determine risk, and file you under whichever category makes the public calmer. Wow, I said. It's like you read me a bedtime story, and then smothered me with the pillow. He didn't flinch. The other option is unauthorized release. You run. I lose my career. They escalate the hunt. You get hurt or someone else does. That's not a game I'll play. So, what's your game? I asked. Because I can smell one even when you iron it. He exhaled. A careful thing. A loophole. Temporary pair bond registration. 72 hours. I stared at him. Then I laughed. Because sometimes your body confuses terror and comedy. Your pitch needs work, Niko. You are actually proposing a fake bond with the guy you're supposed to drag to holding. Captain Dane, your therapist is going to retire rich. It freezes the quarantine order, he said, choosing calm over offense. A bonded pair under evaluation can't be separated without cause. It buys time to identify the source of interference and to prove you didn't engineer it as a weapon. I did engineer a lot of other things, I said, bright. We can add this to the scrapbook. 72 hours, he said. You stay where I can keep you safe. We test. I report what I find. If we're right, we use the report to shut down the quarantine. If we're wrong. He didn't finish. If we're wrong, you get to check Arrested Omega off your list, keep your stats pretty, and I get a nap in a white box. He met my eyes. The professional calm didn't crack. Something else did. I'm not offering this to keep my stats. A beat. Then too. My mouth had a rejoinder chambered, my chest overruled it. You're serious, I said. Yes. Why? He looked down at his own hands like he'd never seen them. Because I've seen what happens in quarantine when chemistry becomes paperwork. Because I can do something about one person even if the system keeps teaching me I can't. Because... He cut it off. 72 hours. My laugh came out crooked. You're unbearably noble when you lie. I'm not lying. I drummed my fingers on the table. The cuffs display watched us breathe. In the camera's dead eye, my reflection looked like a kid dressed as a criminal for Halloween. I thought of the storm tunnel air, the rooftop spark, the way the grid sings when it recognizes you. I thought of cages with prettier names. Okay, I said. Deal. His shoulders loosened a fraction. 2 conditions, I added. 1, we don't call it a bond, we call it a public relations fiction with benefits. He didn't blink. Fine. 2, I choose where we live. That got me the ghost of an expression. No. Yes. It's a safety risk. Your apartment smells like duty, I said. Mine smells like tetanus. Compromise, I pick the place. It's not mine, and it has doors you can stand behind looking tragic. He held my gaze for a long speculative moment. A neutral location, he said at last. My team sweeps it. You consent to monitoring? Audio only in the kitchen, I said. Bedroom is Switzerland. You're not getting a bedroom. I smiled, slow. We'll see. He slid a slim slate across the table. The screen woke to a template dense with legal optimism. City of Kinte. Temporary pair bond evaluation agreement. Duration, 72 hours. Conditions, co-location, medical monitoring, non-interference with ongoing investigation. Mutual consent for physical contact, see Appendix C. Dispute resolution, Appendix G. Appendix C, I said. Spicy. It's boilerplate. Boil it again, then. He handed me a stylus. Sign. I twirled it, thinking of the kids I coach in alleys who believe signatures are traps. Then I thought of Rue's glitter-bright eyes when he told me my birds looked like they were going somewhere worth it. I signed, Niko in block letters, big enough to be a sticker. He signed Dane M. Kessler in a handwriting that could pass inspection by a surgeon. The slate chimed. A small lock icon kissed itself closed. Congratulations, I said. We're legally pretending. 72 hours, he said, standing. Try not to make me regret it. Try not to be regrettable, I said, and the part of me that liked losing on my terms bared its teeth and called it a grin. Living with an alpha is easy, if you enjoy watching someone fold socks with military precision and emotional detachment. Dane's apartment is the architectural equivalent of a clenched jaw, clean lines, monochrome, palette, furniture with edges that look like they passed a background check. The view is all skyline and discipline. If the city is a sleeping animal, this is the glass terrarium where you keep its teeth. He does a slow walkthrough like he's greeting a barracks, not a home. Kitchen is here, he says, as if the refrigerator might be pretending otherwise. Bathroom is down the hall. Bedroom is Switzerland, I say, and grin when his mouth flattens like a diplomat's. Right. The couch is my new nation. He sets my confiscated bag on the coffee table, opens it, and begins removing contraband with the calm of a man unboxing a bomb. 2 cans of paint, 1 diffuser mask, 3 markers, a screwdriver, my notebook, a packet of instant ramen. That qualifies as a hate crime, and my favorite mistake, a hacked bracelet core disguised as a watch. He pauses at the watch. This stays with me. Everything stays with you, I say. That's the point. Until the 72 hours are up, he says. Then we see. The surveillance conditions sit between us like a chaperone, audio in the common areas, medical telemetry on our cuffs, a motion sensor that thinks it's subtle. I can feel its little lens, blinking like a nervous eyelid. My pheromone diffuser hums awake on the counter and immediately throws a tantrum, coughing a minty sigh into the air before going sullenly silent. The thermostat squeaks a protest and flicks itself 2 degrees cooler without permission. Great, I say. Our chemistry is bullying your HVAC. His gaze flicks to the vent, then to me. We'll keep windows cracked. You'll keep windows cracked, I say. I will make art. On what? On my feelings. He almost says something like, don't. He edits himself mid-breath. You're here under evaluation, Niko. Not to mark territory. Everything I am is territory. Then try not to annex my walls. We start with the small domestic wars that topple empires. I put my mug on the left side of the sink, he moves it to the right. I put the dish soap on the ledge, he puts it in the caddy like it owes rent. I take a shower and leave the towel hanging like a flag of victory. He refolds it with a precision that should qualify as a microaggression. When I steal his conditioner because it smells like a better life, he stares at the bottle as if it has betrayed national security. By noon, I've run out of patience and blue tape. I dig out a roll of neon gaffer from my bag, rip off strips and start labeling the floor. What are you doing? He says, not a question. Demarcating, I say. I write no alpha zone by the window where I plan to sulk with flair. Near the kitchen island, Omega airspace, handle with care. By the bathroom door, treaty border, passports ready. I leave a small rectangle of tape in front of the couch labeled, sarcasm drop-off. He watches, arms crossed, the slow bloom of reluctant amusement bruising the edges of his posture. You can't be serious. Deadly, I say. Then add a tiny square by his bedroom door, Switzerland, with a doodle of a neutral soap bar. He rubs a thumb across his cuff. Thoughtful. You're aware the audio will record you narrating your crimes? Good, I say. Let history learn something. The first afternoon passes in the kind of quiet that has teeth. I pretend to nap. Then don't. He pretends to work, then does. The cuff on my wrist chimes at odd intervals, heartbeat checks, pheromone readings. A chirp that means the grid has stopped pretending not to watch. Once, Dane tests the kitchen sink, and the disposal wheezes and dies. We both look at the vent like we've insulted a ghost. Pheromonal field interference, he says, logging it. You're telling me my vibe kills appliances. Statistically unusual, he says. But yes. Hot. Dusk drops fast, slicking the windows with weather. The city ignites in squares and arteries. We orbit each other in the kitchen, negotiating cupboard rights like nation-states. He cooks with a seriousness that implies a childhood of rules: chicken, rice, vegetables arranged like a graph. I make a confession with a shake of chili flakes and a fistful of cilantro. Our elbows brush once at the stove. The cuff at my wrist hums a warning like a gossiping ant. We sit. The silence is almost polite. The first bites are a détente. Then we break at the same time. You fold your socks like you're prepping for an audit, I say. You hang your hoodie like you want it to elope, he says. It makes us laugh, unwillingly. His laugh and exhale through the nose, mine too. Bright. Both of us surprised by the sound like we've discovered a trap door. He sets his fork down. You mark corners differently, he says. Your murals. You soften them. You make the city look like it could forgive itself. You catch people differently, I say. You don't gloat, you wait. You make the cuffs sound like a choice. He looks at me as if I'd reached across the table and touched his throat. I don't want to hurt people. You work for a system that does. I'm working on that, he says. He means it. That is the most dangerous thing about him. We clear plates like normal humans with secrets. The audio in the kitchen sighs to itself, satisfied. I stack dishes on the left, he moves them to the right. I move them left again on principle. We call a truce without saying the word. Night pulls tight. I take the couch, cocooned in a blanket that smells faintly like laundry guidelines and the ghost of his cologne. He hovers by the hallway, some question working its jaw. There's a noise machine, he says finally. For sleep. If you need, I have one, I say, tapping my chest. It plays anxiety. He nods, retreats toward Switzerland, pauses. Good night, Niko. Good night, Captain. The apartment goes dim, then hush. The city presses its face to the windows and fogs them. I close my eyes and open them somewhere else. We're in front of the ministry wall again, but the building is breathing. The mural I left there tonight has grown a second pulse. The birds cut from barcodes lift, shake off numbers, beat their wings. Paint runs down like rain in reverse, climbing back into the shapes that made it. Colors sound here. Cobalt is a low cello, white a high nail on glass, the yellow on the knuckles a laugh I recognize. Dane stands a few feet away in plain clothes that don't hold him like the uniform does. He's looking up at the hand breaking the cuff, and there's a softness on his face like someone has turned a knob I didn't know existed. He doesn't notice me at first. I don't announce myself. I watch, greedy for proof that I'm not the only one who sees. He says, not quite aloud, they should not have to beg for air. Then stop charging for it, I say, and he turns. In dreams, your body forgets to lie. He looks relieved. I hate how that makes my mouth want to be kind. Is this yours? He asks, gesturing at the wall. Is your restraint yours? I counter, but it comes out gentler than I intended. He steps closer. The air between us is tinted with the paint's weather and the clean bite of his cologne. The birds on the wall lift again, and one, made of stenciled train schedules and receipts, lands on the edge of the tether gun he isn't holding. It cocks its paper head and says, in my voice, you're not subtle. Dane looks at the bird, then at me. Is this what your head is like? On good days, I say. We stand with the kind of silence that has room in it. My palm itches. I imagine pressing it flat against the wall where the cuff breaks, and leaving an actual handprint this time, not just suggestion. He's watching me think it. Don't, he says softly. We'll wake the city. Maybe it needs waking. He takes another step and says my name like a decision. Niko. We don't touch. We just let the air touch us for us. The cuff at my wrist, which shouldn't exist in a dream, warms like a living thing. His does too. I can feel it across the space, like two magnets remembering how to want. The birds lift as one and explode upward, ink into night. I hear myself whisper, like it's someone else's confession, I don't want to be owned. I don't want to own you, he says, quick, like stopping a fall. I want you not harmed. It lands in me like a key against a lock I've been too busy mocking to try. I open my mouth to say something unwise. The dream changes, violent and soft at once. Paint peels back to raw concrete. The ministry seal grows the worst teeth. The bird on his knotgun laughs like a dial-up modem and disappears into my chest. Time, the city says. Not really the city, and I wake. Dim ceiling. Couch. Blanket. My body remembers its weight with reluctance. I stare at the room through the film of a dream, and for a second I'm sure a cobalt drip is crawling down the wall. It's not. The motion is my cuff, pulsing once. A whisper comes from the hallway. Don't press it. I don't move. Press what? The button on your band, Dane says, voice low, like he's speaking to a deer he doesn't want to spook. It's asking to confirm something it doesn't have the right to name. How do you know? Because mine is doing the same. We lie to the room. We pretend to be furniture. Outside, the city changes position on its pillow and sighs. The heater kicks. The audio in the kitchen hums, curious and mercifully ignorant. Did you? I start, then stop, because words like dream and together don't behave well in daylight. Never mind. I saw your wall, he says. There's warmth in the words he didn't authorize. It was loud. You liked it. I didn't look away. The silence builds a small bridge. We walk onto it without admitting that's what we're doing. Dane, I say into the dark. The birds said you're not subtle. A beat. Then they are smarter than my unit. I laugh into the blanket, the sound muffled and ridiculous. He doesn't shush me. The heater clicks off. The cuffs cool by a degree that feels like a promise to behave. We don't sleep for a long while. When we do, it's at the same moment. I wake to morning light and the smell of coffee and the sure, bright knowledge. I can't unown. Whatever this is, it's not a glitch pretending to be a bond. It's a bond pretending to be a glitch. Freedom smells like paint thinner and bad decisions. By the third day of temporary bond, the illusion of peace feels like an expired warranty. Dane leaves every morning for his ministry office, dressed in the kind of black that makes guilt look fashionable. I stay behind in his apartment, painting on the backs of obsolete tablets and pretending I'm not. Counting the minutes between the door's sigh when he leaves and the coded click when he returns. Today, though, I follow him. I don't tell him that, of course. I tell him I'm taking air. The security system chirps, my modified bracelet purrs, the lift spits me out into daylight before it can complain. The ministry tower is a mirrored monolith, all reflection and no soul. From across the street I see Dane's reflection step into the elevator bay. Jaw set in the way that means he's about to argue with someone important. The someone is Mira Seo, his superior, the kind of alpha who makes walls stand straighter. I can't hear through glass, but I can read posture. Her tone is sharp enough to cut static. His is all compressed patience. When she places a file on the desk, the holographic labels flicker, Model 9C bracelet malfunction reports. I slip the earbud into place, catch fragments from an unsecured frequency. Not a malfunction, Captain. It's a directive. Mira's voice, cool, tired. The newer bracelets are designed to crash under heavy pheromone fields. Convenient proof that unregistered omegas are too dangerous to leave unsupervised. Dane, you're saying the grid is causing the interference, not reacting to it. You didn't hear that from me. And if you value your rank, or your stray, you'll stop digging. There's a pause, long enough to feel the weight of an invisible leash. One wrong move, she says softly, and you both vanish. I can't protect you from policy. The feed dies with a click. I exhale through my teeth. So, that's the game. Manufacture the problem, sell the cure. The oldest trick in Power's book. Freedom smells like paint thinner and bad decisions, I think again, because I'm already making one. By dusk I'm in the underbelly of District 9, the hacker quarter that smells like fried code and ozone. The ceiling drips condensation onto strings of LED lights, each pulse matching a different crime. Cade is exactly where he always is, half under a server stack, half in debt, and fully too clever for his own safety. His hair's bleached to the color of disobedience, his laugh bounces off metal. Look who got collared and still thinks he's wild, he says, tossing me a rag to wipe the grime off a chair. Word says the ministry's poster boy took you home. I'm renting space in his conscience, I say. And I need data. He whistles low. Dangerous mix, data and alphas. Which kind? The new bracelet firmware, 9C. He freezes, the grin evaporating into calculation. That's ministry tier encryption. Why? Because it's not a bug, I say. It's bait. The bracelet's spike readings near omegas to justify sedation protocols. Cade frowns, eyes bright in the glow of his monitors. You sure? I heard it from Mira Seo. He sits back, tapping a pen against his lip. You want me to trace the updates, find the source? Yes. Quietly. He smirks. When have I ever been loud? Last time you crashed a police drone with a meme, I say. It sang. He grins wider. Fine. Give me a day. He doesn't meet my eyes when he adds, you owe me. I should have noticed then that he was already calculating the conversion rate between friendship and survival. Meanwhile, Dane's world is colder. Field report 6th. Subject Niko remains volatile but compliant. Interference persists. Masking tech degradation accelerated. Environmental systems continue shorting. Lieutenant SEO has warned me to disengage. I'm ignoring her. Reason, unclear. Possibly poor impulse control. Possibly something worse. He doesn't write what he really means, that he started looking over his shoulder, that the glass in his office sometimes hums before his name is spoken, that someone else is tracking us both. Night again. Neon rain slants through the market canopies, making everything shine like temptation. I wait for Cade at our usual stall, a noodle stand with plastic stools and a blind cook who's deaf to small crimes. Cade shows late, wearing guilt like a new cologne. Got it, he says, sliding into the seat opposite me. Firmware 9C traces to a private contractor, council-owned. The fail-safes are artificial. They're planning a full deployment in 2 weeks. But there's more. He hesitates, which Cade never does. What? I ask. He wipes a hand over his face. I sold them your Trace ID. Just the ghost one. I thought they only wanted to scare you, make you disappear long enough to prove a point. I didn't know they'd... Stop. My voice feels like glass about to crack. You sold me. Not you, the alias. It's different. It's not. He reaches across the table. I don't move. He drops his hand, ashamed. Niko. They were watching me. My sister... I stand. The stool clatters. Around us, the night market doesn't care. No one ever does when the lights are pretty enough. Don't follow me, I say. If they find you near me again, it won't matter who you're protecting. He nods, small and broken. I leave before I forgive him out of habit. The alleys behind the market are quieter than they should be. My bracelet hums once, a pulse too steady, too foreign. I check the display, signal lock, active. Source unknown. I start to run. The streetlight ahead flickers. 2 figures detach from the dark, smooth as a memory I didn't make. Council insignia, matte black uniforms, tranquilizer rifles designed for omegas who don't stay still. Hands where we can see them, one says. I grin, wild and cornered. You can't afford me. They move as one. I throw the diffuser, it bursts mint and static. I duck left, slam into a wall, scrape my shoulder, sprint. The bracelet burns. My vision narrows to neon veins and escape routes. Something hisses. A dart, whisper fast. Pain blooms hot in my side. I keep running 3 more steps before the ground tilts. The last thing I see before the world dissolves is the street mural opposite, a wing, half-finished cobalt against concrete. It looks like it's trying to fly. Across the city, in his apartment, Dane's cuff vibrates once, then flatlines. He freezes mid-step. Phone half raised, every sensor around him suddenly mute. The line on his display where my signature should be, heartbeat, pheromone trace, interference, drops to 0. And for the first time since the bond started, the air in the room doesn't smell like ozone and defiance. It smells like nothing at all. They called it an arrest. I called it betrayal with paperwork. The world comes back in fragments, white light, antiseptic air, the weight of restraints biting my wrists. Every sound is a needle, the shuffle of boots, the murmur of scanners, the drone of bureaucracy pretending to be justice. I know these halls. I've painted maps of their shadows. The ministry's service wing is all bleached corridors and mirrored glass. Purity cosplay for people allergic to guilt. They've put me in regulation gray, the color of surrender. My shoes squeak when I move, like I'm apologizing for existing. 2 guards walk me down the corridor in formation, their bracelets pinging every few steps. And then I see him. Dane, in full uniform, back straight, hands clasped behind him, expression stripped of everything human. The officer I mocked, kissed by accident, dreamed about by mistake. The man I trusted enough to believe he might be different. He doesn't look at me as they stop before him. He speaks to the guards instead. Transfer the detainee to my custody. Captain, orders were for Central. I'm countermanding. His voice could carve glass. Signed authorization in the system. A pause. One guard checks his cuff, blinks. Confirmed, sir. Keys jangle. My cuffs disengage from the chain, then snap back around my wrists under his control. He doesn't touch me. He doesn't need to. The gesture alone feels like a verdict. Move, he says. I move. Because, what else is left? The cameras swivel to follow. Every lens in this corridor eats us alive, cataloging posture, proximity, the micro-movements that decide fates. Dane walks one pace behind, silent, professional, untouchable. I want to turn around and shout something reckless. You could have run too. But my throat is full of ghosts. We turn into an auxiliary passage. Narrower, quieter, away from the polished white. The hum of surveillance fades. For a second, it's just us and the echo. Why? I ask. The word scrapes out of me, raw. He doesn't answer. Say something. I push. You owe me at least a line of dialogue before the curtain falls. He stops walking. The motion sensor above us blinks once, then dies, a deliberate kill. He turns, finally, and his face is both a mask and not. I caught you, he says quietly, so they wouldn't kill you. It lands like a punch I can't return. Really? I laugh, sharp and hollow, because it feels like you sold me. You were already sold, he says. The council issued a termination order an hour after your signature vanished from the grid. They framed it as containment protocol. Mira pulled strings. This was the only way to intercept. You could have warned me. I couldn't. They monitor every line I use. Then you could have trusted me. He flinches, barely. You wouldn't have listened. He's right, which makes it worse. The silence stretches, full of everything we won't say, that I believed him, that he almost deserved it, that something between us had started to grow teeth and maybe wings. So what now? I ask finally. You play jailer until the storm passes? Or until it's easier to forget I exist? He looks at the floor as if the tiles might offer advice. There's a review in 48 hours. If I keep you classified as bond unstable, they'll delay your transfer. That gives me time to clean the records. Clean the records, I repeat. You sound like you're scrubbing dishes, not lives. I'm doing what I can. And what am I supposed to do while you play savior? His gaze lifts, steady, dangerous. Stay alive. I want to say something cruel. Something that'll make him flinch the way I did when he walked into that corridor wearing loyalty like armor. Instead, I just shake my head. You're good at cages, Dane. Even the ones you build out of mercy. He exhales through his nose, turns away, and the moment folds closed between us like a file marked confidential. Come on, he says. Back to the roll. They'll start asking questions. He escorts me down the rest of the hall, hand hovering near the cuff controls. We pass through security checkpoints that taste like disinfectant and fear. Cameras blink. Drones hum. I keep my face calm for the feed, but every step grinds the words I trusted you deeper into my throat. When we reach the holding wing, he stops outside a reinforced door. You'll be in cell 9, he says, tone flat. No restraints. You'll have access to sanitation and limited network privileges. Do not access the bond channel. Wouldn't dream of it, I say, even though I will. He presses his cuff to the scanner. The door unlocks with a hydraulic sigh. Inside, white walls, a cot, a vent that hisses too evenly. Everything smells like new beginnings no one asked for. I step in. He doesn't follow. Sleep, he says. It'll help. I smile without teeth. That's the first lie you've told me today. The door seals shut between us. I lie on the cot and stare at the ceiling until the hum becomes a voice I almost understand. My bracelet has been muted. No pulse, no warmth, no trace of him. For the first time in days, my pheromone field is silent. The emptiness is louder than any alarm. When sleep comes, it's colorless. No paint, no city, no birds. Just blank. Even in dreams he's gone. Field Report 7th. Subject Niko transferred to holding for own protection under fabricated arrest. Official charge, public endangerment, data tampering. Actual threat, council termination directive. Current condition, stable, uncooperative, silent. Recommendation: maintain isolation. Review after 48 hours. Personal note redacted. The silence of the bond link persists. The absence is measurable. I didn't expect it to feel like this. End of report. The first rule of dream hacking: don't enter someone's subconscious. Unless you're ready to see yourself naked, emotionally, at least. The second rule: bring a witness who believes in science more than fate. Field Report, 1008. Excerpt. Location: Research Annex. Lab C. Consultant: Dr. Yuna Park. Omega, Biochemist, Clearance S3. Finding: bracelet firmware. 9C, injects a compensatory RF spike in proximity to high-compatibility pheromone fields. The spike destabilizes local meshes, then flags the resulting anomaly as justification for intervention. In short, the bracelets are not reacting to a bond. They're manufacturing a crisis and calling it safety. Recommendation: pair link can be stabilized by manual synchronization, using a low-frequency bridge delta band and shared sensory anchor. Risk: entering the subject's dream space may expose operator to unfiltered affect. Note redacted. Proceeding anyway. The cell is a white noise machine that believes in itself. I lie on the cot and let the hum scrape my nerves dull. No paint. No birds. No city. Just the taste of stainless, and the ache of something that should be there and isn't. I try to sleep and hit a locked door. I try again. The door grows teeth. I'm not sure how long I've been practicing failure when the overhead vent sighs a different temperature. The air changes. The faintest bite of lemon, the mineral cool of graphite. The way a room smells after you say don't leave. Don't press it, I say to the ceiling out of habit, and then I remember I'm alone. I laugh. It sounds borrowed. The cuff on my wrist warms, 1 degree. The lock on the door clicks once, imperceptible to anyone who hasn't spent his life listening for mercy. The lights dim, ease back up. The white noise hesitates. You can't be here, I say to no one. Then I'm in the right place, Dane's voice answers over the intercom, dry, tired and too soft for a man who enjoys being obeyed. Don't speak again until I tell you. Audio is on a loop, but it isn't deaf. My pulse trips. Pride wants to sneer. Relief kicks pride in the shins. The cuff buzzes a pattern I don't recognize, then finds one I do, the memory of a train rocking through a tunnel. Delta band. Old lullabies for brains. My breathing goes obedient without asking me for permission. Anchor, he says. And the word unlocks itself. The mural. The birds. My throat tightens. Always. Close your eyes. A beat. Please. I close them. The room slides away like film from a projector whose operator just remembered romance. The bridge rises out of black water like a cord you can walk. Neon sutures the ribs of its arches. Every light hums a fraction off. The way a city sings to itself when it thinks no one's listening. 2 walls flank the span, not really walls, more like the undersides of the sky, and both are covered in my work. Birds made from receipts and train schedules, hands breaking cuffs, faces with eyes that are doorways. Paint bleeds in reverse, pooling up from the ground into color. Dane stands near the midpoint, not in uniform. Dream logic favors honesty. He's in the plain black t-shirt and worn coat from the subway in my head. He looks like a decision with legs. He also looks tired, like anyone would look after arguing with a system built to outlast people. He turns as if I make a sound I don't hear. For a half second, his face unarms me completely, not because he's beautiful he is, but because he wears no weaponized calm. Just recognition. Relief that doesn't ask for permission to exist. Niko, he says. Captain, I say out of stupid reflex, and then, smaller, Dane. We stand with the bridge humming under us and the water pretending it can't swallow everything. Behind him, a paper bird shakes ink off its wings and mutters in my voice, "Try not to be tragic." He doesn't look at it. "How are you here?" I ask. "Manual sync," he says, stepping closer but keeping a respectful country of air between us. Dr. Park built a delta band bridge. The bracelets caused the interference. Not you, not us. I breathe. It comes out like a confession. "So I'm not a weapon, you're a person," he says, like he's filing a report and a prayer at the same time. "And the bracelets are a political business model." The bridge's neon flickers, angry. A strip of turquoise along the beam brightens like a shout. "I'm sorry," he says. And the apology is the opposite of neat. "For the haul, for the cuffs, for not being able to tell you before I arrested me, I supply, because if I don't say it, It will swallow the scene. With paperwork, he grimaces. With paperwork. You did it to keep me alive, I say. I don't make it a question. Mira told you I'd vanish. His gaze drops. More than told me. She showed me the directive. It's why I'm here now instead of already a former captain. She is not the villain you think she is. Not every day. I don't have energy to update my list of villains, I say. But I'll send her a fruit basket if I survive. The paper bird caws like a modem. Sarcasm detected. I shut it up with a look. Then, quieter to him. You still should have trusted me. His mouth tightens. I thought I was protecting you. And I thought attachment was a collar, I say. Looks like we're both bad at thinking. He startles into something that almost smiles. In the neon. It looks impossible and real. He takes another small step. My skin registers it as an event. I need to ask you something, he says. And it won't be fair. Excellent, I say. Fair is a hobby for rich people. He exhales, steadying. There's a press demonstration scheduled in 36 hours. A stability display for bonded pairs. I can get us in as the finale. If we go on their stage as their exhibit and show a controlled spike in front of every camera. And if Dr. Park's patch flips the data to implicate the firmware, we can force an external review before they roll out sedation. A beat. But it means putting you in the brightest light the city owns. I imagine the press hall, white, enormous, hungry. I imagine standing next to him while the numbers try to write our destiny in neon. I imagine the sick little thrill of being right where they can't pretend I don't exist. And if we don't? I ask. They deploy 9 degrees Celsius everywhere, he says. They turn your existence into a justification. I hate that his voice goes hoarse on the last word. Okay, I say, too fast. Yes. He blinks. You shouldn't ask me to be brave? I shrug. Too late. You already taught me a better word for it. What word? Choice, I say. And the bridge thrums under us like approval. He looks out over the water where the city should be. In the dream, it isn't there, which feels honest. Niko, he says abruptly, like it hurts not to, I'm sorry. For making you feel owned. For building a cage, even a temporary one, and calling it protection. I know, I say. And the 2 words surprise me by not tasting like surrender. And I'm sorry for painting you as the law when you're actually a person who happens to wear one. The paper bird hops between us, pecks at empty air, and says, in an excellent imitation of Mira's clipped tone, focus. I laugh. It breaks a bone I didn't need. Fine. Focus. Dr. Park will cue the patch, he says. Mira will look the other way until she doesn't. Cade? He stops. I save him the search. Sold me, I say. He'll spend a long time making payments I didn't ask for. I'll make sure he survives long enough to make them, Dane says, and it's so casually. Nightly I roll my eyes to keep from doing something stupid like soften. Silence gathers, but this time it's work silence, the kind where you can hear gears choosing teeth. He extends a hand. The gesture is plain. No drama. Just the oldest technology we have for saying I'm here with you, and I expect to be seen. I look at his palm and think of cages and bridges, and the way birds look just before they test an updraft. I don't take it. Not because I don't want to, but because the wanting is too much electricity for this circuitry. Not yet, I say. But I step closer until there's barely an argument of air between us. Like this. We don't touch. Our hands hover, heat finding heat. The neon rises under our feet. The birds on the walls lift and wheel paper and ink and data, turning into a flock that writes a future in the shape of a yes. The cuffs we aren't wearing hum on our skin. The bridge sings a low note. Somewhere far away, a camera blinks without knowing what it's looking at. Tomorrow, he says. Tomorrow, I echo. We hold the space the way a kiss holds the second before it happens, and then we let go at the same time, stepping back like professionals who have just agreed to commit a beautiful crime. When I wake, the cell is still gray, and the hum is still smug. But my cuff is warm, and the air smells faintly of graphite and lemon, and there's a plan on. My tongue that tastes like paint, and the first clean breath after you pick the lock yourself. If we're going down, at least let the cameras catch our good side. City Hall's press atrium looks like a cathedral that married a shopping mall. Marble ribs, a chandelier, the size of a small ego, tiered risers crammed with cameras that blink like insects with credentials. Screens float above the stage, already cycling through the ministry logo and soothing words. Like safety and stability, which is a mood if you're into lies with a tasteful kerning. They dress us for the optics they ordered. Dane wears an almost uniform, charcoal suit, white shirt, tie that looks like a quiet no. The black of his strays unit isn't on him, but it hums around him anyway, a rumor he can't shake. I'm the counterpoint in a soft black jacket over a white tee, paint-splattered boots I refuse to change, wrists bare. Formality versus freedom. Leashed versus loose. Their narrative drips off us, we let it because we have our own. Mira meets us backstage looking like a verdict trying to be a person. You have 10 minutes, then the panel will begin the stability evaluation, she says. Her eyes flick to mine in a way like she can't afford to feel. Dr. Park is in an auxiliary room, no names. I nod. We won't say Yuna. Promise. Mira's mouth almost twitches. To Dane she adds, one wrong move, and I never knew you. Then quieter, only for him, one right move and none of us have to pretend anymore. He gives the smallest nod, the kind you hand someone in a burning building when you're about to try something brave. I feel it like a pulse. The announcer's voice floats through the curtains, the final demonstration, a bonded pair under evaluation, whose recent interference events have drawn public attention. We thank Captain Dane Kessler for his transparency and the subject for his cooperation. Subject. I roll my shoulders like I'm shaking off a collar, then step into the light. The stage is a bowl of attention. Photographers thrum at the lip of it, capturing our walk in slices. The minister's panel sits behind lacquered desks, Counselor Vaughn at the center in a suit that looks expensive and tired of empathy, flanked by 2 tech reps with smiles that read as invoices. Above them, the screens show a split view, our faces, our vitals in neat graphs. And the bracelet telemetry that claims to know what our hearts intend. We take our marks on the dais. Dane stands like a promise that keeps its own weather. I stand like a man who prefers rooftops. Our cuffs blink status lights that have no idea what's coming. Vaughn leans into his mic. Captain, Mr. Niko, thank you. The people simply want to know that the bond is stable, the city is safe, and that our tools are working as intended. Working as intended is doing a lot of work in that sentence, I say. The press laughs, relief on a hair trigger. Vaughn doesn't. Dane's voice is clear and unhurried. We're here to demonstrate a controlled proximity spike, he says. As in the previous incidents, you will see the telemetry react. He looks at me, and something in that look stitches a rip in the air. Ready. Always, I say, and we step closer until the space between us is measurable in want. The cuff graphs on the screen begin to climb, neat little lines discovering ambition. A technician near Vaughn nods like a weather forecaster who finally got rain. Anchor, Dane murmurs, too low for mics, and the word runs down my bones. I think of the bridge. Of birds shaking off numbers. Of every time a cuff tried to call me property, and I laughed loud enough to change the subject. The world sharpens. Behind the stage, in a mezzanine window, a silhouette moves. Dr. Park. Yuna, who isn't named here, lifts a hand to her tablet. Now, Dane says, and I tap the back of my watch face where the dead bracelet core lives. The patch executes like a confession. For a blink, nothing happens. And then all the telemetry on the big screens jitters, stutters, and cracks open. The neat graphs invert. Process trees bloom like guilty flowers. Raw logs scroll where sanitized metrics should be. The bracelet's compensatory RF spike stands up in the data and introduces itself by name. The tech reps go pale. Vaughn's jaw appears, vanishes, reappears in a different place. Someone cuts the mic feed, but you can't cut 1,000 phones. The room becomes a storm of small cameras as the press realizes the show is suddenly better than the program. I raise my voice so the room can eat it. In case the jargon's too sexy, here's the simple version. These bracelets aren't reacting to an omega's pheromones. They're creating a spike when a compatible pair gets close, which crashes nearby bracelets. Which lets the council say, oh no, look, dangerous chaos. Sedatives for everyone. Manufactured crisis, pre-packaged cure, profit as policy. Vaughn slaps a hand to his mic. It still works for him, of course it does. This is a dangerous misinterpretation of security measures. Security for whom? Dane asks, his voice calm in a way that reads as lethal. Because as of this minute, every device is showing a vendor flag tied to your office's contract. Technicians scramble like ants on a spilled sugar line. If panic had a scent, it would be new plastic and old sweat. A security detail appears at the edge of the stage. Mira steps between them and us without moving at all, she just happens. to require several square feet of space where their path would be. The officers hesitate, reading ranks and futures. The screens flicker again as Yuna's patch propagates citywide. On a dozen public billboards outside, the bracelet's debug mode shoves aside corporate kindness to show guts. A 9 Citant spike. And calls to sedation cue that never should have been live in a civil registry. Someone in the back laughs in a way that sounds like a sob. Vaughn changes tactics. He puts on concerned uncle face. Captain Kessler, you've enjoyed a stellar career. Don't throw it away to protect a citizen, Dane says, with rights you signed away, and a future you couldn't monetize. Vaughn turns that on me. And you? Do you believe you deserve to endanger others with a mural? I say. Absolutely. I point up at the code waterfalling down the screens. This is the danger in this room. The rest is perfume. It isn't elegant, what happens next. It's honest. The press begins shouting questions whose teeth show. Someone in the second row stands and chants, "Turn it off!" The chant flips, morphs, becomes "Turn it on." An argument about which truth we want televised. Mira leans toward a captain at the aisle and says something that makes his shoulders drop in relief. The detail steps back. A cluster of council aides surround Vaughn like expensive weather. Dane looks at me, and in that look lives every corridor where he didn't speak, every rooftop where I almost kissed him, every second we have left before consequences decide they've been patient enough. He reaches up, unclips the insignia from his lapel, and sets it on the podium like you put down a stone you carried farther than it owed you. He takes off his cuff and lays it beside the insignia, the gesture clean as a line break. Effective immediately, he says into the nearest mic, which is absolutely still hot, I resign my commission. Any retaliatory action taken against Dr. Park or subject, he stops, corrects himself, against Niko will be pursued, in court with all the documentation you've kindly recorded for us today. 100 mouths attempt to ask the same question at once. 100 devices drink it. The chandelier hums like a hive. Captain, Vaughn says, voice fraying. Think carefully. I am, Dane says, and he does the bravest thing he's done in public, nothing. He chooses not to move until the room has to move around him. Mira's eyes find mine. There's pride there. Reluctant and fierce. She tilts her head, microscopically, toward the side door that leads to air. I take the cue. I step to the front of the stage, plant my boots on their polished floor, and look out at the city watching itself. You wanted a stability demo, I tell them. Here's mine. Outside, the city hall facade is a white whale of a wall. An invitation no good person should resist. The paint goes on like a verdict you can dance to. By the time the sun leans toward evening, the atrium has devolved into committees and statements and emergency edits to press releases. Somewhere inside, a dozen lawyers are writing future ethics in pencil. Out here, the wall is becoming a song. I stencil bars of a waveform across the stone, low to high, fat to thin. In the troughs, I tuck birds built of receipts and court filings. In the peaks, I hide hands unlocking cuffs with keys shaped like questions. Across the center, I roll cobalt in a line that vibrates even when you stop looking at it. Dane stands a few feet away, no longer anyone's captain, holding a tray of paint like an altar. Strangers pass brushes down the line. A kid, Rue, brave and grinning with a legal bracelet he can now choose to wear or not, adds a tiny paper crane at the margin. A reporter puts her camera down and picks up a roller. Someone starts humming. It resolves into words before I even know I'm saying them. Freedom has a frequency, I write in white, in letters the city can't pretend not to read. The last stroke lands. The crowd is quiet the way people go quiet for vows and weather. The mural thrums. Or maybe that's just my pulse sinking to something that finally belongs to me. I step back, paint in my hair, my jacket, my bones. Dane is watching like he's memorizing it an inch at a time. He looks wrecked in a way that makes me want to be careful with him forever. You sure about this? He asks, gesturing at the chaos we invited. No, I say, and mean it. But I'm sure about us taking the stage. He smiles, tired, and unarmored. Then let's be loud. A year later, the city smells less like fear, and more like fresh paint. On opening nights, galleries breathe like lungs. Mine inhales a crowd and exhales warmth onto the sidewalk. Friends, strangers. 2 reporters who swear they're off duty, a handful of kids with dried paint under their nails, and a retired patrol officer. who keeps pretending he's only here for the free sparkling water. The walls are white enough to make every color brag. The show title rides the entry in quiet black letters, Dream Frequency. It's all the places we met when we weren't supposed to. The bridge that sings, the birds. Cut from barcodes, the hand that breaks a cuff and doesn't apologize for the noise. There's a piece no one expects, just two silhouettes in negative space, almost touching, the air between them painted like heat. People stand in front of that one longer than they mean to. The world outside the frames is different now. Bracelets are voluntary. Opt-in protections, not leashes, and the firmware. That tried to rewrite our biology as a court case with a losing habit. Public safety learned new words like consent and transparent patch notes. Omegas move through the market without calculating the distance to the nearest exit. The kids from the underpass paint in broad daylight and argue about composition like it's a contact sport. I float through rooms where voices make weather. Rue, taller now, swaggering in a way that's 90% costume, 10% heartbeat. Drags friends from canvas to canvas and tells them what my birds mean like he invented them. Dr. Park arrives late, hair pulled back, eyes bright. She accepts a plastic cup of something celebratory and insists on paying for a print, which I refuse, and then she threatens to invoice me for her feelings. A camera flashes. Another. The curator glows the way people glow when a risk paid off. You did it, she whispers. We did it, I correct, because even my ego knows a chorus when it hears one. Somewhere in the second room a girl says to no one and everyone, I can breathe in here, and I have to duck behind a column and get myself together because sometimes grace ambushes you with good news. And then he walks in. Dane has learned how to be casual without looking like he borrowed the clothes. A charcoal jacket over a dark tee, sleeves pushed up, hands clean in that way that suggests he still thinks in patterns. He pauses just inside the door, like he's letting the room register him. Or maybe he's registering it, an old habit from a different life. He doesn't wear any insignia now, just a small metal pin shaped like a question mark turned into a key. Someone made it for him after the hearings. He still doesn't know who. People notice him the way he hates being noticed and pretend not to. He gives them that calmer than gravity nod, then looks for me. I consider pretending not to notice him back, because theater is a young man's game and I'm still a little petty. Instead, I move through the small weather systems of small talk, until we face each other under a piece that looks like a confession. Hi, he says. Hi, I say. Brilliant conversationalist that I am. For a breath we're 20 versions of ourselves at once, rooftop strangers, subway ghosts. Co-conspirators with microphones? Idiots who chose the same dream and set it on fire. You look like yourself, he says finally. Tragic, I answer. I was going for taller. He smiles, and it does that thing to my ribs it always does. Congratulations, he says, tipping his chin toward the nearest wall. You've made our worst nights into something people want to put above their couches. Art is civic recycling, I say. I turn terrible decisions into decor. We orbit the piece together, polite to the point of comedy. It's the bridge one, neon ribs, water like a chord, a flock writing yes. He focuses on the tiny details like a man memorizing a crime scene he isn't going to report. How's civilian life? I ask. He thinks about the answer instead of issuing one. Quieter, he says. Louder where it counts. The pilot unit's up, community liaison instead of hunters. I spend a lot of time telling new officers to listen first. Sometimes they do, a self-deprecating tilt at the corner of his mouth. Sometimes I do, ooh. Miss it? I ask. Missing is a habit, he says. I'm breaking worse ones. We walk. He stops in front of synchronicity, the negative space piece. The air between the silhouettes hums like a secret. He stands a long time, hand in his pocket, the fingers of the other one flexing once like. He's resisting the urge to reach for something and politely disappointing himself. Behind us, someone exclaims over the tiny paper crane Rue slipped into a corner frame. A playlist I didn't pick because I don't trust my taste not to bully the room, lets a low song pass by unnoticed. Do you still think I'm your mistake? I ask, because I've always been the one who kicks doors. He doesn't play dumb. He looks at me like we're back on that bridge with all the city's pretend stripped off. No, he says. And he doesn't look away. Just the most beautiful accidental mark in my life. It lands in my chest like a key in the right lock. I want to laugh and cry and quote myself at him. I choose the least embarrassing thing on the menu and kiss him. It isn't cinematic at first. It's a smile colliding with a yes, soft and careful, the kind of kiss you give. Someone when you're saying hello and thank you and there you are all at once. He sucks in a small startled breath that I will collect like a rare coin and frame mentally forever. Somewhere, someone who loves drama actually claps. Somewhere else, someone who hates it pretends to care deeply about a label on a wall. We break before the moment turns into a speech. He leans his forehead against mine for a second like we're making a tiny tent against the gallery weather. When we separate, the room has gone back to being many rooms with many stories that are not ours. Roof? I ask. Roof, he agrees. We escape up a stairwell that smells like dust and memory. The night has arrived while we were being art. The city spreads out, lit arteries, soft squares, a long patient horizon. Across from us, City Hall's facade still carries last year's mural, preserved by a council vote that surprised everyone who voted for it. Freedom has a frequency. Tonight, someone has added a small line at the bottom in handwriting I recognize. We cross to the parapet where the wind edits all our mistakes into better sentences. He isn't a captain, and I'm not a subject, and we are definitely not pretending we're a fake pair on a bright stage. We're just two people who didn't let numbers tell them what they were. You happy? He asks, not like the question is fragile, but like the answer deserves to be. Frequently I say, and then, because truth is a muscle I'm finally learning to use, yes. He nods, satisfied like a man who solved a problem without breaking it. Good. We stand with our shoulders touching. Below, sirens are just songs about somewhere else. Above, the sky practices being generous. On the wall by the roof access door, someone has scrawled it in new white paint, small and stubborn, like a signature you leave on a life you almost didn't get to keep. Metco, but Mimo. Marked, but missed. Missed, but found. I trace the curve of the M with a fingertip, wet paint smudging my skin. He catches my hand, inspects the white stripe like evidence, then brings my knuckles to his mouth and kisses the mark like a blessing. Don't fold my socks, I warn, because humor is a parachute and we deserve soft landings. Only under duress, he says. Only under treaty, I correct. We laugh into the wind, the kind of laughter that makes room for another day. The city hums its 1,000 frequencies. For once, we don't need to tune it. We're already on the right station.